What if I told you that disappearing without warning could be the most powerful move you'll ever make? Girl, before you hit send on that, we need to talk text. Pause. What if silence speaks louder than closure? What if ghosting him flips the entire game? In this video, I'm not just going to tell you what happens when you ghost a guy. I'm going to show you the ripple effect it creates in his mind, in your dynamic, and in your power. We've been conditioned to believe that being nice means explaining everything. Over-texting, over-giving, basically running ourselves ragged for someone who doesn't even know what he wants. But today, we're flipping that narrative, because here's the truth. When you ghost a guy who's been playing hot and cold, breadcrumbing, or wasting your time, you're not being rude. You're being strategic. You're protecting your peace. You're removing his access to your energy. And trust me, he notices way more than you think. In this video, I'm breaking down what goes through a guy's mind the moment you disappear. Why his phone suddenly feels way too quiet. Why he starts stalking your socials. Why the moment you stop chasing, he starts craving. So don't click away. Don't second guess. If you've ever been ghosted, gaslit, or just plain done, this video is your power play. Let's talk silence. Let's talk psychology. Let's talk about what really happens when you ghost him. Let's talk about what happens in a guy's brain when you go silent. At first, he doesn't notice. Maybe he even assumes you're playing games or just busy. But give it a few days, maybe a week, and that silence starts echoing. Suddenly he's scrolling through your texts, wondering why there's no new message. He's checking his stories to see if you viewed them. He's low-key calculating if you're just busy or if you're actually done. And this is when he starts noticing you more. Not because you're chasing him, but because you've become unavailable. See, men are wired to pursue. It's primal. When something is always available, always responding, always there, it's taken for granted. It's human nature. But the second you pull away without warning, you disrupt that pattern. You remove the comfort he didn't realize he depended on. Your silence becomes a question mark in his mind. Did I mess up? Is she over me? Wait, why do I kind of miss her now? The thing is, he might not have even known how much space you took up in his mind until you stopped occupying it. That's the power of absence. It creates presence. Your energy, your time, your availability, those were luxuries. But he only starts to realize that when you stop giving them away, now he's thinking about the things you used to do, how you used to check in, the cute ways you used to flirt, the way you listened to his problems when no one else did. All those little things he brushed off, they suddenly have weight. They meant more than he admitted. And here's the twist. He won't just feel your absence emotionally. He'll feel it energetically. There's a vibe shift. You're no longer orbiting around him. And without that gravitational pull, he starts to feel unbalanced, like something's missing. He might even try to play it cool. He might not text you right away, but trust me, he notices. And if you hold your silence long enough, he'll do something to break it. Maybe a hey text. Maybe he watches your story hoping for a reaction. Maybe he posts something just to see if you'll notice. Because the truth is, your absence is louder than your presence ever was. Not because you weigh him, but because he finally realizes what he had. When you ghost a guy, especially one who thought he had you figured out, it throws him off. It makes him rethink everything. It gives him space to feel your worth. And it forces him to notice you, not because you said something, but because you said nothing. So don't mistake his silence for disinterest. Often it's him processing, him realizing, him feeling that energetic void. And girl, that's the power you hold. So the silence has set in. You haven't called, haven't texted, haven't liked his posts. You've gone full ghost. Days pass, maybe even a couple weeks. Then suddenly, ding, a text pops up. Hey, been thinking about you. Or just saw something that reminded me of you. Maybe it's even more casual, like you good? But here's the thing. He didn't reach out because he misses you in some deeply emotional way. Not at first. The real reason he's texting isn't because of love. It's because of confusion. Because the dynamic he thought he was controlling suddenly flipped. When you were available, responding quickly, checking in, initiating plans, he knew exactly where he stood. He felt in control. There was no urgency. He didn't have to try. He didn't have to earn anything. But now, you're a question mark. Your silence introduced uncertainty, and uncertainty breeds desire. That's how the mind works. When something becomes unpredictable, it becomes more interesting. He's not texting because he had an epiphany about how amazing you are in your absence. He's texting because he's losing the comfort of knowing you are always there. And here's a truth bomb. A lot of guys don't notice your value until they feel your absence disrupt their routine. He's not necessarily reaching out because he's changed. He's reaching out to see if you have. He's testing the waters. He wants to know if he still has access to you, if you're still emotionally available, if you'll respond like before. It's not about missing you. It's about missing control. Sometimes the message comes cloaked in nostalgia. Remember that night we stayed up talking, or I drove past your favorite spot. But understand, it's rarely just about the memory. It's about reigniting the connection he now realizes he might have lost. And here's where it gets tricky. The moment you respond too eagerly, that urgency, that curiosity, it disappears. He gets the answer he was looking for, and that can kill the momentum. He knows you're still there, so he slips right back into his old patterns. But if you hold your ground, if you stay unbothered, nonchalant, cool, you shift the power dynamic even further. He starts to think, why hasn't she responded? Did she move on? Did I lose her for real this time? That's when the texts get longer. The calls start coming in. The efforts become more real. If he genuinely cares. If not, he fades away again, which is its own answer, right? So next time he pops up after you've gone silent, don't get caught up in the flattery of it. Ask yourself, is he reaching out because he wants you or because he wants his power back? Because girl, there's a difference. And knowing it, that's where your real strength lies. There's something magnetic about mystery. Something irresistible about not knowing everything. And when it comes to relationships, especially the early stages or the hot and cold flings, mystery and scarcity are pure power. They spark curiosity, tension, and desire in ways that constant access never could. When you ghost a guy or simply remove your presence from his life, you instantly become less predictable. You stop explaining yourself. You stop showing up where he expects you. You become a blank space, and blank spaces beg to be filled. That's how the human brain works. When someone pulls away, the mind starts spinning with why. It creates stories, theories, possibilities, and in doing so, it keeps thinking about you. Mystery makes you memorable. Scarcity makes you valuable. When you're always available, always texting back instantly, always showing interest, it's easy to become part of his routine. You blend into the background. He knows what to expect, and predictability kills excitement. But when you stop being predictable, when you become rare, you stop being routine and start being a challenge. Scarcity triggers something primal. We chase what we can't have. We desire what feels limited. It's the same reason luxury brands thrive. They don't flood the market. They create exclusivity. You don't see a high-value brand begging people to notice them. And girl, you are the brand. When your energy becomes rare, it becomes premium. And let's be real. Mystery doesn't mean playing games or being manipulative. It means having a life that doesn't revolve around him. It means keeping parts of yourself sacred. It means letting him wonder what you're doing, who you're with, what's on your mind, because you're not broadcasting it all for his consumption. Think about it. If someone knows your every move, your every thought, your every plan, where's the intrigue? Where's the anticipation? Mystery builds tension, and tension builds attraction. Now pair that mystery with scarcity, your time, your energy, your attention, and you've got the most potent combination. You're not available 24/7. You're not dropping everything for a half-hearted you up text. You're living your life. You're investing in your goals. You're protecting your peace. And suddenly, he starts to chase. Not because you told him to, not because you asked for more, but because you pulled back and created space for him to realize your value. Most women are afraid of being distant because they think it'll make a guy lose interest. But the truth is, a man who's worth your time will be drawn in by that distance, not turned off by it. And the ones who disappear when you become unavailable, they were only there for the convenience, not for you. So don't be afraid to lean into mystery. Don't be afraid to become scarce, because the moment you stop making yourself easy to reach is the moment you start becoming impossible to forget. Okay, let's pause the empowerment anthem for a moment and get real about something important. Ghosting isn't always the right move. Yes, silence can be powerful. Yes, removing access to your energy is often necessary. But there are times when ghosting can actually backfire or worse, cause unnecessary harm. Let's start with this. If a man has genuinely treated you with respect, been emotionally available, honest, communicative, and things are just fizzling or shifting, ghosting is not the move. Why? Because ghosting at its core is a form of cutting off communication without closure. And if someone has been emotionally vulnerable with you, they deserve more than silence. They deserve clarity. Ghosting should never be your default way out of a healthy connection. It shouldn't be a tool for avoiding uncomfortable conversations. That's not empowerment, that's avoidance. Growth requires emotional maturity. And sometimes the high road means sending that final message. Even if it's awkward, even if it's short, just something like, hey, I've appreciated our time, but I don't see this moving forward. Wishing you all the best. Simple, kind, clear, and done. Now let's talk about another critical scenario where ghosting might not be the best option. If you're in a situation with someone emotionally unstable or manipulative, yes, it can feel empowering to just vanish. But if that person has shown obsessive or erratic behavior, ghosting can actually escalate things. They might spiral, stalk, lash out, or try to manipulate their way back into your life. In these cases, a clean, firm boundary is safer than ghosting. That might look like blocking with a short message. This dynamic isn't healthy for me. I'm cutting communication. Please respect that. Then block, disengage. But do it in a way that makes your boundaries clear, rather than leaving space for interpretation, obsession, or drama. Also, consider this. Ghosting isn't always the flex people think it is. If you're ghosting as a way to manipulate someone into chasing you, that's a game. And the energy you put out, it boomerangs. If you're using silence as a tactic to gain control instead of a tool to protect your peace, it will backfire. Either you'll attract someone who's just as manipulative, or you'll end up feeling even more disconnected and confused than before. Another red flag, ghosting when there are unresolved emotions you haven't dealt with. Silence might seem easier than vulnerability, but if you're ghosting someone because you're afraid of how much they still affect you, that's not power. That's fear. And that fear will linger. In fact, many women ghost and then find themselves obsessing over what he is thinking, doing, feeling, which defeats the entire purpose of ghosting in the first place. So here's the golden rule. Ghost for your peace, not your pride. Use silence as protection, not punishment. If your intention is to protect your mental health, preserve your energy, and remove yourself from a toxic dynamic, ghost and don't look back. But if your goal is to spark a reaction, prove a point, or play a game, take a pause, because the strongest women don't just disappear. They choose when and how to walk away with clarity and confidence. So yes, ghosting can be powerful, but only when it comes from a place of grounded strength, not avoidance, revenge, or ego. Know when to hold your silence and know when to speak your truth. So you ghosted him. You've been silent. You pulled your energy all the way back. And now he's back. Whether it's a casual, hey stranger, or a deep, heartfelt, I've been thinking about you, the moment has arrived. He's reaching out. Now the big question is, what do you say? First, pause before you respond. Don't rush into reaction mode. Just because he finally texted doesn't mean you owe him an instant reply or even a reply at all. Take a breath, check in with yourself, ask why is he really reaching out? And more importantly, what do I want from this conversation? Because your response, it sets the tone, not just for the next message, but for whether this story picks back up or ends completely. Now, if you're done with the situation, truly done, and you don't want to re-engage, keep it clean, kind, and final. Something like, hey, I've moved on from this connection. Wishing you well. That's it. No drama, no back and forth. A soft door. Close that doesn't invite more questions. And then block if necessary, protect your peace. But let's say you're not sure. Maybe you still care. Maybe you're curious. Maybe there's a part of you that wants to see if things could be different. If that's the case, it's crucial to set the tone with boundaries and directness. Don't pretend like nothing happened. You went silent for a reason, and you're allowed to honor that reason. If he's texting again, let him earn that access to you. Not just stroll back in like he never fumbled. A good place to start, Hey, I wasn't expecting to hear from you. What made you reach out? This keeps the ball in his court. You're not being rude, but you're also not throwing open the door. You're showing him that you're not the same version of yourself he last interacted with. This is a new you, with new standards and a stronger sense of self. If he's genuine, you'll know by what he says next. A real man will explain himself. He'll take accountability. He won't gaslight, dodge, or play cute. He'll say, I've been thinking about how I handled things and I owe you an apology. Or I didn't realize what I had until I lost it. Real words, real emotion. If he comes in with vague, empty phrases like miss you, what's up, or let's hang, don't fall for it. That's not effort, that's ego. He just wants to see if he still has access. You can reply with, if this is just a check-in with no intention behind it, I'm not interested. If you have something real to say, I'm listening. Boom. That sets a boundary. That puts you in control of the pace. And that reminds him that getting your time and energy now requires more than bare minimum effort. Here's the thing, you are not the same woman he left. Your silence transformed you. It clarified what you deserve, what you won't tolerate, and how you show up moving forward. So when he comes back, and trust me, they almost always do, don't default to the old pattern. You don't have to be cold or savage to be powerful. You just have to be clear, calm, and in control. Ghosting was step one. What you do when he comes back. That's where your real power shows. Silence isn't just an absence of words. It's a presence. A psychological force that speaks louder than 1,000 messages. When used with intention, silence becomes one of the most powerful communication tools you'll ever have. And when it comes to relationships, especially the ones filled with mixed signals, confusion, or an inconsistency, silence can shift the entire dynamic. Why? Because silence is a pattern interrupt. The moment you stop reacting, stop chasing, stop explaining, you break the loop. And our brains, they hate broken loops. Let's unpack that a little deeper. Human psychology craves closure. We're wired to complete patterns, resolve tension, and find meaning in behavior. When someone suddenly goes silent, the brain goes into overdrive trying to fill the gap. It starts asking questions, creating scenarios, replaying memories. This is known as the Zeigarnik effect. The tendency to remember incomplete or interrupted tasks better than completed ones. When you ghost or go quiet, you become the incomplete story in his mind. And that psychologically is power. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. Silence makes someone turn inward. Unlike arguing or explaining where the focus is still on you, silence forces a person to confront themselves. It leaves room for reflection, for discomfort, for growth, if they're capable of it. And trust this, people hear your silence differently, depending on how they treated you. If he was inconsistent, he hears rejection. If he was controlling, he hears rebellion. If he was taking you for granted, he hears distance and realizes what he lost. Your silence becomes a mirror, reflecting everything they did or didn't do. And what makes it so powerful, you're not even the ones saying it. They're the ones drawing the conclusions. They project their guilt, their curiosity, their fear onto the quiet. It's subtle, but it's intense. Now on the flip side, silence also reclaims your own power. When you disengage, you're not just removing access to you, you're protecting your peace. You're breaking the addiction to constant validation and choosing stillness over struggle. That's not weakness. That's emotional maturity. And if you've ever felt the urge to break the silence just to ease your anxiety, that's normal. The brain craves certainty. But here's the truth. The person who stays calm in silence holds the real control because they're not reacting from fear. They're choosing from power. Silence also resets your value in someone's mind. If you were always available before, always accommodating, always responding, it's easy to get taken for granted. But when you go quiet, you send a clear message. My energy is a privilege, not a guarantee. That kind of energy, it's unforgettable. Even more importantly, silence gives you clarity. It creates space for you to hear yourself. In the noise of relationships, it's easy to get lost in what they think, feel, want. But when you go silent, you begin to remember what you want, what you need, You stop reacting and start choosing. And that's what makes silence not just powerful, but sacred. So remember this, silence doesn't mean you've lost. It doesn't mean you're weak or scared or unsure. Silence means you've stopped explaining your worth. You've stopped arguing for your place in someone's life. And you've started listening to your own voice again. That's the psychology behind silence. And once you master it, you'll never chase energy that doesn't match yours again. So you ghosted him. You stepped back, went quiet, chose your peace over the chaos, and now here you are. But what comes next is just as important as the silence itself. Because ghosting isn't just about cutting someone off, it's about reclaiming the version of you that got lost in the noise. Let's get one thing clear. Ghosting isn't weakness. It's not avoidance when it comes from a place of strength. It's a boundary, a firm, unspoken declaration that says, I no longer give energy to what drains me. And that shift, that's where your power begins to return. After ghosting, it's normal to feel conflicted, especially if you are emotionally invested. You might catch yourself wondering if he noticed, if he's thinking about you, if he even cares. But here's the truth. This phase isn't about him anymore. It's about you. It's about who you are without the weight of over-explaining, over-giving, or over-accommodating. It's about stepping fully into your self-worth and owning it unapologetically. Now is the time to rebuild your connection with you. The woman who set the boundary, the woman who walked away from a one-sided connection, the woman who stopped trying to be chosen and chose herself instead. That version of you, she's powerful, she's clear, she's whole. Reclaiming your power means learning to sit with silence, not as a punishment, but as a practice. It means getting comfortable with your own company. It means falling back in love with your peace, your space, your time. Because when you stop pouring into someone who couldn't meet you halfway, you start pouring into yourself, and that's where the glow up begins. Here's the shift. You stop obsessing over what he thinks and start focusing on what you feel. You journal, you take walks, you reconnect with your goals. You surround yourself with people who pour back into you. You laugh more, sleep better. You're not waiting for a text. You're waking up to yourself. And listen, if he does reach out again, which let's be honest, they often do, your power is in how you respond, or if you respond at all. The old you might have jumped at the chance, explained your silence, craved closure. But the new you, she doesn't need validation, because ghosting wasn't about teaching him a lesson. It was about teaching yourself that you don't have to entertain energy that confuses you. Reclaiming your power after ghosting also means rewriting the narrative. You're not the girl who left without saying anything. You're the woman who recognized her worth and didn't need to justify it. You're the woman who chose her future over familiar dysfunction. And that is nothing to feel ashamed of. So hold your head high. Your silence spoke volumes. And now it's time to speak even louder through your actions, your joy, your energy. Because real power doesn't chase, it doesn't explain, and it definitely doesn't settle. Real power walks away and builds something better. You made it. You've walked through the journey of ghosting, whether for self-protection, emotional clarity, or simply reclaiming your peace, and now you're standing at the other side. And let me tell you something, you are stronger than you think. This journey wasn't just about removing someone from your life. It was about finding yourself again. We often get so wrapped up in the dynamics of relationships and the pursuit of connection and in the fear of being alone that we forget how powerful it is to be alone with ourselves. Being able to walk away to make decisions that honor your worth, even when it's uncomfortable, is one of the most empowering things you can do. But I get it. You might still feel a little uneasy. Maybe you're wondering if he'll come back. Maybe you're second guessing whether you made the right choice. And that's okay. Growth isn't linear. It's not always neat and tidy. But the most important thing to remember is that you are reclaiming control over your own life. You are choosing to honor your time, your energy, your emotional health. And that, my friend, is a powerful act of self-love. Here's the truth. Ghosting wasn't about being petty or playing games. It was about choosing yourself first, because you are worthy of being chosen. You are worthy of being treated with respect, consistency, and kindness. You deserve someone who shows up, not just when it's convenient, but when it matters. Someone who recognizes your value without you having to explain it every single time. If you've ghosted because you recognize that someone wasn't giving you the energy you deserved, let me remind you that you made the right choice. Don't let anyone make you feel like you're wrong for putting yourself first. Because here's the thing, if you keep giving your energy to someone who isn't matching your effort, you're only depriving yourself of the growth, love, and relationships you truly deserve. But let's go even deeper. If you're struggling with guilt, wondering if you did the right thing, or questioning whether ghosting was too harsh, take a step back and look at the bigger picture. You didn't ghost to punish him. You didn't ghost to cause drama. You ghosted because you realized that your peace is priceless. And protecting your peace is never wrong. It's always a form of self-respect. Now, I want you to understand something powerful. You are not defined by your actions in this moment. You are defined by how you move forward. Ghosting is a chapter, not your entire story. How you carry yourself from here is what will determine the future of your relationships and your growth. It's not about perfection, it's about progression. You're learning to honor your boundaries. You're learning to walk away when something no longer serves you. And that, my dear, is a skill that will serve you in every area of your life, not just in relationships. Let me tell you one more thing. You don't need anyone's approval to thrive. Not his, not anyone's. You don't need validation to feel worthy or complete. Your worth doesn't come from the validation of others. It comes from within. And once you truly grasp this, once you understand your power, you will never settle for anything less than what aligns with your highest self. You've walked away from someone who didn't recognize your value, but now you're stepping into a space where you get to define your value. You're stepping into a space where you no longer feel the need to explain yourself or chase anyone who can't see your worth. You are worthy of peace, love, and respect, always. And anyone who tries to make you question that doesn't deserve to be in your life. So as you move forward, remember this. You are stronger, more empowered, and more in control than you've ever been before. You've just taken a huge step toward knowing your worth. And from here on out, you will only settle for the energy that matches your vibe. This is just the beginning of your glow up. Keep walking forward. Keep trusting yourself. Keep choosing your peace. You've got this. Keep shining.